Hello, everyone. I am TarotStache, and thank you very much for joining me today for a Chasual with Wisdom Seeker Joan. And hi, Joan.
Hello, thank you for inviting me, and thanks everybody for coming.
Yes, I'm glad to have you here. I'm thrilled. I was actually saying to Joan backstage, it's been a while. It's taken me longer than what I've expected to have you come on for a Chasual with me. And a Chasual, for those of you who do not know, it is a chat that's casual.
Yeah.
So
well, I'm thrilled to be here, and it wasn't it was divine timing.
yes,
So,
yeah. Oh,
yeah.
I agree.
Today was the day for it, so perfect.
Yes, perfect way to start the new year. And I do want to remind everyone to please like this video, share it. We are simulcasting, so it's on both my channel and Joan's channel. Links are in the description, as well as how to get a hold of both of us if you would like a personal reading. We do private readings. And as always, this is for entertainment purposes only. Do not make decisions based upon what we say. Seek professional assistance. Really. But we're actually not doing readings for people today. That's tomorrow.
Yes.
On Joan's channel.
Yes. Jean and Gerald and I will get together tomorrow at, what is it? 1 p.m. Central, 2 Eastern, 1 Central, 11 Pacific, for Enlightened Insights. And we're looking forward to answering questions then.
Yes. And this is our opportunity to get to know Joan a little bit better. So do, as I said, like, share, and subscribe, because it's free. And let's say hello to a few people. We have Bora Bora, Venus, Richie Longman Tarot is here. Hello, Richie. Amanda Carroll. And Carl said, hi, Joan. Leah, Wani R, and Free Spirit, good to see you. I realized that, and Medium Betsy Palmer. Hello, Betsy. Good to see you. And, well, thank you. I'm looking wonderful. Maru is here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I say chick from Ohio. It may be chic from Ohio, but, you know. So, Russ Bob's Barbara, Pooja. So, and thank you for that.
Thank you.
Oh, Bora Bora has asked an important question. We have survived the snow. I live in Ohio, so we got about 5 inches of snow, 5.5 inches of snow. It was a slow accumulation, so it wasn't, 5.5 inches in an hour. It was actually quite lovely. It's chilly. So we're into single digits. So, and how about you?
We didn't get any snow here. And I was discussing with Gerald beforehand that we've been in kind of single digits and below zero for the last couple of days. And now it's warming up a little bit. But the cold pushed the storm. It's too cold to snow here, or it had been. So it pushed the storm down to your neighborhood. Sorry about that.
That's all right. That's all
right.
It
had been really cloudy and everything, and now it's clear and cold. So the sun is shining, and it's just glorious.
There you go. Emily is here, and thank you, Maru, is putting up how to book a reading with you. We have Moira and Sylvia from Color for Foresight. Lady Eva J, hello, Happy New Year. And yeah, and Venus is like, and I thought 20s were cold. Yeah. So, but yeah. So, for those of you who have not seen a Chasual before, this is our opportunity to get to know more about my guest. And, I always start with this one. And this is one of those, isn't this a frightening question? What's your origin story? It's like it freaks me out a little bit. But by the way, we have Beth Aspasia Rising. Hello. And Bora Bora, 5.5 inches of snow isn't really a lot when you live in a place that gets snow.
It's significant though.
So
you can't just wait for it to melt. You have to get out there.
Okay. Ooh, I have the okay, link is incorrect. Thank you. I will fix that. So didn't know that. But anyhow, so relax. It's okay. This is, everybody's there. Ooh, what do you have? What's your beverage of choice today?
Well, because it's usually cold in my house, I drink a lot of decaf. A lot of decaf. So that's what I have today. And with almond milk, and then I put some stevia, liquid stevia in it.
Okay. I'm just having iced coffee, but I'm also supplementing it with water because I also I want to hydrate myself.
Yeah.
So Leah said the Swedish say there is no bad weather, only poor clothing.
Yes. That's why people in Minnesota all look like the Michelin Man with, all bundled up.
Yeah. So, and Wani talked about that they're getting down to 30 in Texas. I've heard that.
Now that's scary because you're not built for it. I mean, homes and city services and everything are built for it here, but not in Texas and in the South. I had a friend who built a house in a winter house in the Tucson area, and it had gotten cold there, and people's pipes were freezing because she said, "Yeah, the plumbers came to put in the pipes, and they did." And we said, "No, they have to go deeper because you have to get below the frost line." And they looked at him like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, that's crazy. All right. Here you go. Homemade chicken soup simmering on the stove, lots of fresh thyme and yummy broth. That's great. So, I have fixed the link in the description. So for you, I've taken care of that.
Oh, thank you very much.
Joan, Wisdom Seeker Joan, who, by the way, only has 579 subscribers. Really, people, let's up that a bit, please.
Well, that would be very kind, but I have not been real active lately, but I'll be back at it. I just needed to keep my hands in it. My origin story is I was born in a small town in about 45 minutes from the Twin Cities in Minnesota, and grew up there, and a brother and 2 sisters. And then my grandmother, she came up for dinner every night. And so there were lots of women. It was my 2 sisters, my mom, and my grandmother. And so we, would do everything together. And, there was 7 people for dinner every night, and the girls would clean up afterwards. And that's the way it was back then. And we got to communicate. We always knew, because we'd worked together so much or just had been together so much, we always kind of knew what each others were thinking. And it's like, a conversation could go, oh yeah. And no one else would be able to understand what's going on. But we did. And you could just like, that would mean one thing. And I didn't really realize until much later that maybe there was more than just habit going on there. And both my sisters, I think, are more psychic than me. And my mom it was so fun. She, at the breakfast table, she would sit down and tell about her dreams. And she had just amazing, kind of wild dreams most of the time. So that was like the entertainment at the breakfast table. But sometimes she'd have prophetic dreams too, and say, "Oh, I dreamed that Jimmy was in a car accident last night," and it would bother her all day. And then she'd finally call Jimmy's mom, and it turned out that he'd been in a car accident or things like that.
Wow.
So yeah. And I remember one time, speaking of weather things, a big storm came through, and the kids and mom and Grams were standing in the dining room, and it had sort of this bay window looking out at the storm, and Grandma, and we're all like kind of in this window seat by the window. And Grandma said, I think we should step back from the window. And it's like, everyone's rolling your eyes. Oh, Grandma, please. And not 10 seconds later, a big tree branch, massive oak tree branch came down on the top of the bay window, the kind of corbelled out like that. And yeah, so there was stuff like that I think every family has a couple stories like that. So I grew up there. I saw a couple ghosts when I was little. At first, going to bed, I shared a room, and I loved going to sleep because I could see little pinpricks of color, and that was really fun. So I think those were angel things, or I don't know what. I didn't associate it with anything spiritual. But then later on, I saw a couple ghosts in the house, and it was my great-grandfather had built that house, and my parents were the second owners. It was built in the 1890s. So who knows? There, could have been visiting ghosts. I'm not sure who it was, but I was one of those people who it was lots of sleepless nights and getting up in the middle of the night and like, when I went to college in my first apartment, there was a ghost there, and she would come. There was a hallway leading down to my bedroom, and I'd see her coming, marching toward me, and she had this lilac-colored gown on, and I knew that she had ill intent, or at least it felt that way. So I would sleep with a knife under, like a knife under the bed, and I thought, I don't know what a knife would do to a ghost.
But did it help you get some sleep? Knowing that it was there.
Yeah. So there was that. And this was, I'm old. I kind of was a teenager in the 70s. And somewhere in there, because everybody was into all kinds of spiritual stuff. And I remember getting I got a book on palm reading. And I thought that was really interesting. Until I would go around and read all my friends' palms. And then it was like, and when it started to seem like everybody was going to die of a brain tumor, I thought, this isn't quite so fun, because it was, just some little book. But another book I got fairly early on was the book that John Lennon wrote, Mind Games, about. And I wish I would have kept it. I've been getting rid of things, and I don't know when I got rid of that, but it was the original Mind Games book from back in the 70s. And a lot of them were games that you did with other people, but there were some meditations and some little games that you could do on your own. And that was like one of the first meditations, kind of like a guided meditation that I did. And I still do that sometimes, where so that was kind of fun.
I love that. I want to pause for a second, because I see Donna from Artist and Oracles is here. They're in Nova Scotia, and it's cold up there at 48 degrees. Well, and I want to point out, Donna was watching a live that I did almost 2 years ago. That was the origin of the Best Chatters Oracle cards. And so since Donna's here, and I read with them the first time last Thursday, but Donna, here are all the cards for the Best Chatters Oracle. And these were comments that people made in the chat that were just delicious. And so I'm going to actually use it when I do caffeinated and unfiltered readings tonight, so people can see that at 7 Eastern. So, but I saw Donna, and I'm like, oh my gosh, got to see that, because she's got her name on it. So
wonderful. What a wonderful thing to do.
Well, I wrote them all out. I'm working on getting them into perhaps available on Make Playing Cards, maybe.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a stack. Patience. Let me get it all in. So, Amanda Carroll is here. I did see Kristen Louise and more people come in. Never heard of that book or story, Lennon. I think I remember the book Mind Games.
Had an orangey cover, the original.
So yes. Yeah. So, but yeah. So, okay. So you basically were surrounded by strong and powerful women who were
Yeah.
well.
Oh, and so this is what happened. Then my younger sister went off to college, and she was an actor, and so she eventually moved out to LA and was, waitressing and being an actor, she was in some small parts in movies, but and industrials and stuff like that. But in the meantime, she, went to LA and started taking classes with Louise Hay. And
Mhm.
then she found a psychic, and her name was Gloria. And she would call and say, "Oh, well, we went to see Gloria, and this is what," and everybody's on the extension phone saying, "Tell us, what did she say? What's going to happen?"
Mhm.
And it was just amazing. So everybody was into hearing about Mary's psychic Gloria. And I thought, well, by this time I'm living in Minneapolis, and I'd like my own Gloria. And it just so happened that, 5 blocks away from me on a arterial street, kind of a psychic shop opened up selling the usual stuff. And I went down there. Oh, and there was a review in a local paper about about the psychics and readers they had there.
Oh, uh-huh.
And one of them sounded good, and her name was Diane, and I went to see her, and she became who I refer to as the family psychic. So
Okay.
everybody would go to see Diane. And it was the
Mhm.
same thing. You get on the line and say, "Well, I saw Diane today, and this is what she said."
Uh,
And my mother, who was a very, religious, well, she was a committed Catholic. Uh, it- but she was interested in this too. And she'd say, "Well, if you have time, ask Diane this or that." And anyhow, it's great.
mhm. Yeah.
Um, and so when I met my husband, I said, "Well, you have to," he was a bit older than me. He graduated in 1968. So he was, it was hippie time, and
Mhm.
he'd been through some of that kind of stuff. And so I said, "Let's go see this." At that time, there was a good palm reader from Romania, and I took him and gave him a gift of a palm reading session. So
Uh-huh.
he was upstairs in some room with this Romanian woman getting a palm reading, and it was going on and on and on. And I thought, what's going on up there? And they
Uh-huh.
came out of the door and walking down the stairs, and the reader was going, he's just like me. It turned out that she wasn't just a palm reader, she was an engineer, as was my husband. And yet they had this other artistic, like musical, spiritual,
Mhm.
all those other sides too. So anyhow, so he understood about it, but didn't partake in it too much. But he too
Yeah.
would want to know about, well, when you go to see Diane, ask her this or that.
Sure.
So
Sure.
that just became kind of normal. And early on with Diane, she said, "Oh, well, you've got psychic abilities." And right away I said, "Well, should I develop those?" And she said, "No, then you'd be just like me. They're talking to you all night long, and I can't sleep." And she never turned it off. And
Mhm.
anyhow, but after she died, and that's a whole other story too. Um, I'll dip into this one. After she died, she uh, she had once there's an obituary in the paper and you have an opportunity to respond online. So both my sister and I said, "Oh, we're so sorry. Diane was very important to us,
Mhm.
blah, 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 blah."
Yeah.
And a month or two later, someone contacted us out of the blue and said, "I saw that you responded to Diane's obituary." And here it turns out that this was Diane's daughter that had been adopted. And I didn't know anything about it. And she
Oh,
said, we had just recently gotten back in touch when she got sick. And we were arranging to meet. And I don't want to contact her family because I don't know if they know about me or whatever.
sure.
And so I said, I can be the go-between because I knew the family and all of that. And anyhow, and I just thought that was so Diane. It's like, okay, I know her daughter who they'd never met, needed some closure on this. So she said, how's this going to work? Well, she's going to throw the ball to me, and then I
Uh-huh.
can make this connection and then be done with it. And I think that I call that playing three-corner catch for spirit, where they just need you for one thing that you can fill in. And then, yeah, so that kind of thing happens once in a while, where a spirit will reach out to help you connect other people or to do something that needs to be done. and then you're on your way.
Yeah. And has that been a natural tendency for you to do without calling it that? That you sort of are in the right place at the right time to deliver
Sometimes
a
that kind of
message?
things happen. Yeah. And I
Uh,
think we all have done that without really realizing it, but just knowing my relationship with Diane over the years, um, that was kind of cool.
well, and I
So
think yeah, I think what's really beautiful about that is here you are surrounded by these amazing, strong women, and everybody had their own abilities. Or they weren't discounted, they weren't
right.
discouraged or anything like that. And then, and somebody said earlier, Amanda said, should we all not have a family psychic?
You have your doctor, your dentist, the lawyer, and your psychic. I mean, you just need
Yes,
that.
yes. And Beth lived in Minneapolis in the late 70s.
Yes. Yeah.
So hi, Vicky. So I think there's probably this, um, as I like to say, when we have these abilities and we don't know they're special, we think thought everybody did the things that I did, and come to find out that no, not everybody does,
Yeah.
and that it's different. Like you seeing ghosts, and you having Diane say, no, you don't want to to develop your skills because you want to sleep. So, but I think my point is, it's nice to hear that you had these women around you
Yeah.
and everybody sort of encouraged it in a way, because there was you could talk to them about it.
Yeah.
So
And um and even my mom, in a more traditional way, she had a prayer group. And every night before the prayer group too, mom would just make a list of, who she was praying for, and just in a
yeah,
little notebook, and put it down. And so many of those prayers came true. And then she got the prayer group going, and people were like, "Are they witches?" Because they would get together and things would happen. So just,
yeah,
kind of manifesting.
yeah. Well, let me ask you, you want to tell us a little bit about your spiritual path, because it sort of relates to, well,
Yeah.
I would think, how you got to where you are. So,
Yeah. And it started with that when Diane said, "No, don't develop it." Then I didn't. I never asked again. Uh, but then after she died, and what really happened, then my younger sister died, and that one hit hard. And I
mhm,
thought, I need to get in touch with her. So I went, and by this time Diane had passed and everything. So I went to someone who had the same teacher, the same mentor as
mm,
Diane, and they were in the same spiritual church. And her
mhm.
name is Echo Bodine, and she is from a psychic family. They say, lots of people, several of she and her siblings have lived in LA and been psychics to the stars and everything like that.
Oh, uh-huh.
Um, and she's for a long time kind of been the psychic person, in the most well-known one in the Twin Cities area. So I
Hmm.
took a class from her, uh, and I told her the story about Diane, and said, she said, I shouldn't develop it. And she said, oh, I know, because Diane had said, if you develop it, then you'll be like me, and your doors and windows will just be flapping in the breeze
Mm.
unlocked, and all that time. And I told that to Echo, and she said, honey, your doors have been and windows have been flapping in the breeze for a long time. It's time to learn to get control of them.
I'm glad to hear that. That's wise advice.
Yeah. So,
That's
and
wise
the
advice.
most amazing thing that happened in those, the first classes I took from her were, thing was that I didn't judge myself, because I was not the best person in the class. I
Hmm.
wasn't even in the top half of the class. I was kind of like a C- student as far
Hmm.
as, guessing things right, or whatever. And usually I've, if it doesn't come easy, I'm not really good for sticking with it.
Oh, yeah.
Or at least, but I thought, no, I want to do this. This is important. I'm going to just let myself be bad. And I did. And and I, I still kind of feel that way, that I'm not the best psychic on YouTube by any chance, but I feel like I can get some things and I can help some people. And I know when I needed that.
Yeah.
And they're, because different people resonate with different people. And sometimes I
Oh,
read
yes.
for people and I feel like, oh gosh, it's like I'm in class with Echo Budia and I'm just crashing. I'm just a C- student here. But then people will say, oh my God, that makes so much sense. This has helped so much. And
Yeah.
I don't get that. Um, I don't feel that myself. And then
Mhm.
so that's why it's so helpful when people kind of give you feedback and say, oh yes, my mother liked daisies or whatever you see or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. Well, and I've been fortunate to spend some time with medium Betsy Palmer, and we've talked about, she's written a book. It's a workbook. It's called "You Are Gifted," which is about developing and understanding your abilities. And so, like, cutting yourself a break, Joan, when
Yeah.
you're comparing yourself to others and you're not trusting. It's one of those things that with these type of readings, you just sort of, you don't have any cards in front of you. You just go and you just
Yeah.
share it, because it doesn't have to make sense to you, the medium. It just has to make sense to the person who's receiving it. So,
Yeah.
and so, yes, gird your loins. Yes, Wisdom Seeker Joan does give great readings. And Amanda said she's very modest. I've had a
You're
reading
sweet.
with Joan. She is remarkable and very visual, which I love. And and um, can am I mean, okay. So you may remember it back when you were starting, probably a good 2.5 years ago.
Yeah.
You were looking for people to practice on. So I scheduled a reading with you.
I remember that.
And I am I can be a challenging person for whom to read. I mean, I can be, because I'm so well guarded, I'm so well grounded, and I have to have a lot of trust. But boy, you nailed a lot of stuff. And it was like, holy shit, that doesn't mean anything to you. It means a whole hell of
Oh,
a lot.
good.
So it was like, dang. So,
Thank you very much.
yeah.
It's, because when you said that I was so visual, that shows, oh, you're so sweet. Um, that that's why I know it's not coming from me, because when I was like taking my early psychic classes, a lot of it is visualization, and it's like these guided visualizations where they're, oh, okay, you go in through this door and you go down the steps and then you turn here and you go here, and I'm like squinting my eyes, still trying to look for the door because I have a hard time visualizing. But when I
Mhm.
open up, all these pictures come through. So,
Yes.
I mean, I don't know how many times I've taken the past life class where they give you a guided visualization. Okay,
Mhm.
now we've done this long thing. You look down at your feet and describe what you're wearing. And it's the same tennis shoes I came in
Yeah.
on. And tell us where you are. I'm in the basement in the shop on Lindell Avenue. And it's just been really hard. So I like, it's weird. The way I read is different, I think, but I kind of like that it's not real literal,
Mhm.
because I'm also kind of like, I don't want to be that much into people's business. I don't want to really see,
Yeah.
like when people say, do my spirit guides see me in the shower and things like that? I don't want to be seeing that.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
seeing things more metaphorically or whatever, I think if it can communicate to the sitter and then I don't have to get real literal with folks, that
Yeah.
makes me feel more comfortable too.
I agree. And Betsy and we have talked about the idea of setting boundaries. And when one develops, and I'm bringing this up, Joan, because you had said, the person that you took classes with said your doors and windows have been opening and closing for years. That is a lot of times how it happens. What I've learned, and I don't know if you have a similar experience, let me know. I've learned the importance of setting boundaries with when and how they communicate,
Yeah.
because I need to be able to get good sleep. If you want to show up in a dream about something, I need to wake up well rested, or we're not having this conversation now. But,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I have to be very intentional about that. And they know the times and all of that. Plus then other stuff kind of gets in the way sometime.
Lady Eva said something massive is going
Yeah.
across the street from us.
Yeah.
There are blue lights everywhere, ambulances and police cars. Ooh, I hope
Let's just send some healing and energy to Lady Eva's neighborhood.
Yeah.
And lots of angels for the emergency responders and the emergency respondees. Thank you very much. Oh.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree. It is about boundaries with spirits and getting proper sleep, too. Yeah. So, and you're staying inside. Good.
Yeah. Good for you.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, and let's see. So Equibodine classes were great, and I could, do some of the contact work in the groups, but then the class is over, and this was sort of before people had online groups. And so it was like, well, now what do I do? And I had some other classes from another wonderful local psychic, Carol Lowell, and she and I still stay in touch. In fact, she just came over and cleared my house. Turns out the woman who lives in the house next to me, she was feeling like, there's something weird in the house. And I said, well, I know who to call, because this Carol Lowell is an excellent psychic, and she does ghost busting. And I was taking classes from her one day, and she asked everybody, hey, I'm gonna, are you interested in coming with me on a ghost busting thing? And everybody else said yes, and I just decided not to, because I've got that thing with ghosts. From being little, they're just not my favorite.
Yeah, sure.
But anyhow, one Saturday she called and said, hey, I've got a ghost busting job. Do you want to come with me? And I was like, yeah. She said, no, you're supposed to come. Your guides are saying, like, okay, we'll do this. And we went there, and that was really kind of a cool thing. And she told me how it all worked, and they cleared that one. But so I knew that she was and the woman whose house she cleared had cleared other people's houses. She was kind of a psychic too, but this was getting bad. Like the ghost was turning on the oven and lighting things on fire, and both she and her husband were having physical problems and blah, blah, blah. Anyhow, she got that all figured out. And she said she had me there to send healing, because I'd taken healing classes from her too, to the homeowner, because she said the ghost would go and suck her energy, and that's why she was.
Oh, okay.
So because she was trying to talk to him and kind of chasing him around, and she said, unless you were sending him healing energy, source energy, he would just be around at her back, taking it away.
Interesting.
So that was kind of fun.
Okay.
And once that was another tangent, and I forget what the question was.
That's all right. I think, and Amanda asked, and you did connect with your sister, and how was first contact? Because you wanted to get into contact. So
yeah. And my first contact, Diane was still around then. And so I was contacted through her. And on my own, she kind of puts things in my path more than direct contact. But yeah, she's right here. Here.
Okay.
I've got all of them over there. She's just a lovely person. And yeah, she puts people and things and things in my path. So it's more like I stumble on things and say, oh, thanks, Mary. So that's how we kind of communicate now.
I like that.
Yeah.
So what I think everyone has, yes, it is beautiful. When you do your readings, what skills do you bring with you? What tools do you have?
Let's see. And I just kind of connect, and I just get, I guess it's a little clairaudience. It's not, I have heard voices outside of me, but I get thoughts that come in, and then I see pictures. And sometimes I will feel things, clairsentience in my body.
Right.
Lots of times a chakra will light up, or sometimes for a physical problem, it's like, oh, my hip hurts, or
Mm-hmm.
that type of thing. But
Yeah.
mainly it's words and pictures, thoughts and pictures.
Thoughts, pictures. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a particular type of reading that you like to do for people?
I kind of do just more general psychic stuff and some mediumship. I've done past lives, but they kind of just feel like the same thing. And I've taken classes in the Akashic Records, and I've done some of those readings, but I just kind of like basic psychic and mediumship readings.
Mm-hmm.
And,
And
kind of questions that come up about just dealing with our lives here.
yeah. And by the way, everybody, Joan is being very, self-effacing. She's pretty good at that. You do more than just general sort of thing. So, be nice to yourself, Joan. You're amazing.
See, I have to work on that.
Okay. I understand that, but I am saying you're good. You're good. And it's hard to put into words, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think I need to feel that myself a little bit. And when I get a little bit more active again, I love the chakra light up. Yeah, I do too. That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
And am I Canadian? No, I just have a Minnesota accent.
Yeah. So I guess sorry if I put you on the spot there.
That's okay.
But I think, again, it's that thing. And I struggle with this. And I was actually thinking about this yesterday and trying to figure out, this is Gerald rambling now. So people are like I was watching Project Runway. Have you ever seen Project Runway? Okay. There's fashion designers. They get 16 fashion designers together and they take them through a lot of different exercises and challenges. And part of what the judges are always saying, you need to know your voice or what your perspective. And I'm like going, that's really a challenge. It can be a challenge to do that. What is your voice? Because I was like, what's Gerald's voice when he does readings? What's Joan like when she does a reading? And so it's one of these things that I was like, maybe that needs to be a show or something like that.
I'd have to think about that.
Yeah. How do
and
you figure out your
it's
voice?
hard to get outside of yourself in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And this way, it's easier to just kind of leave them and psychically. But yeah.
So,
and that should be easy because I worked in public relations and marketing and for my career. And in some ways, I think that was helpful because I worked in a lot of I was doing kind of the same thing in a lot of different industries, from art museums to doing legal stuff and medical stuff and in, manufacturing and engineering and science, always architecture, always having to ask people and get them to explain things to me, complicated subjects and putting complicated things into easy language anybody could understand. Mm-hmm. And I think this is just taking that the next step further of taking information from a different source and trying to transmit it in a way people can understand. Yeah. So I'm just doing what I always did, except it's a little different.
Well, yeah. And what's interesting is that we have these skill sets from our 9-to-5 jobs or our careers. And sometimes I forget, well, I have this skill from that experience, from my career. I can apply that skill here, just tweak it a little bit. And that's one of those things that it's like mind blowing. It's like, whoa, I didn't think about that. So,
and I think that's one of the things I learned, that it was really hard for all these scientists and people with PhDs in art or whatever it was it was really threatening to have someone who knew nothing about what they did to come in and just start asking questions. And so I had to find a way to just put them at ease and be kind of non-threatening and get the information I needed. And then, and that's kind of the way I do readings too. It's just kind of who I am, to not be very threatening and put people at ease and say, okay, let's work together on this in a way that will make, that will be beneficial for you. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. It's very much a positioning yourself on the side of your client rather than the client trying to battle you.
Exactly.
I'm here to help you get the information that you need, whether it be for this, for job, or for this message from spirits or whomever. What is it that you need to support yourself?
Yeah.
But there were some people who were saying, who were concerned about ghost hunting because it could be a little scary. And you weren't actually doing the ghost hunting per se. You were there offering healing.
Right. So that the ghost wouldn't suck more energy out of the homeowner.
Yeah. So you were healing. So, but I understand that, and it takes a special kind of person who really can know what's theirs and know what's other people's to be able to work with that energy.
Yeah.
So I read like that too. Always start out putting client at ease, finding common ground, get them to open up. Then I can read very well for them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, everybody sip. Mm-hmm. So do you have, I sort of know the answer to this, but do you have, what divination tools do you use? And do you have favorite divination topics?
Tools are, I have my pendulum, which works pretty well. And then I've got a couple other decks, but these are the cards I use. These are my original Rider-Waite tarot cards from that shop where I met Diane for the first time, probably in the early 80s. And then these are what are they called? Divine Feather Messengers, because I love birds.
Yes.
And they seem to work okay.
Those work great. I love it when you pull those. When you pulled a couple of those cards for me when you did that reading for me. And then I also see you use it when I do readings with you. And boy, does it not like sum up, and it's like really, really wonderful.
And I just love birds. That's one way things show up for me. Okay. I'll answer the question. And then Terry Suzuki gave me these, the Female Archangel deck, Archangel Oracle cards, illustration by Marie Jo Forzali. And they're just beautiful, and they seem to work pretty well. But I would love, there's so many beautiful decks, but I am at the stage in life where I'm getting rid of things, and I just don't want anymore. And then I had the experience of when I first started watching Allie of Heart and Soul Connected. She was using these cards, the Sacred Earth Oracle deck. And
yes, it's a beautiful deck.
There was one card in there that I was just mesmerized by, and it was so beautiful. I had to order the deck, and I got it, and that deck has just never worked for me. And I thought, okay, well, they're pretty things. Yeah. So I'm just sticking with these just because I'm still just kind of getting rid of things. I think the cards are as good as the readers. And different cards work with different readers.
Oh, trust me. I have, TarotStache. I have a stash of decks. I'm surrounded by decks. So yeah, and sometimes they work for you, sometimes they don't, and sometimes they don't work for you for a while, and then suddenly they can, because something has evolved. So yeah. And Media Betsy Palmer said, I like helping ghosts cross. Such relief and peace.
Yeah.
And I think that for me, it is in I'm a big believer in intention is everything. So
Yeah.
I think if your idea is to help cross and get relief, I think in peace, I think that's a different experience. So
A lot of ghosts who are hanging around choose to stay because they don't want to meet this other person on the other side, or else they were like my grandfather, who was haunting my mom's house. And why it didn't sell until we called in. Actually, Carol Lowell came and cleared it. He'd been around in the house since 1963, and we cleared it when her house wasn't selling. We'd had it cleared by somebody else. She came in and said, "Oh, it's your grandfather, and he doesn't want to go because he was a real serious Catholic in the
mm-hmm.
in the days of he was afraid of judgment." And she was the one who did the ghost on the trip that I went on too. And she said what she does is she kind of opens up the vortex for so they can feel the energy of the angels and feel the energy of heaven. And she said, especially with this last one, this guy who was like, "No, I'm not going because the guy who did horrible things to me is up there." And she said, and then she just kind of got close to him and opened it up. And he said, "You mean it's going to feel like that?" And she said, "It's going to feel 100 times better. This is just what you can feel when you're down here." And then he said, "Okay, I want to go." Oh, I get tingles just telling that story.
Wow, that's powerful.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
And that's what she did with my grandfather too. And as soon as she did, the house sold quickly after that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm going to go off script a little bit.
Go.
So, we're talking a lot about energy and mediumship and doing psychic readings. Where is this energy? Where does this energy come from that as a reader, you tap into? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm not sure exactly. Our souls, I guess, are all a fractal, a piece of divine source energy, and they're all a unique vibration, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe that's it, or you just kind of get on we're here in the 3D world where everything's very dense, and that's why I can see the shape, and we can all see each other. But once you kind of lift up from that, you recognize each other by vibration. So I'm told, or that's my experience of it, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and communication is a little different. So, yeah, I don't think that answers the question directly, but I think
I think it answers the question, and I wasn't looking for a specific answer or anything, because it just sort of popped into my brain and I wrote it down, and I'm like, okay, where is this energy? Where is this energy that we're accessing? And I think I'm partially like you, where it's this idea is that we're all part of it, and where we focus our attention, we can see more of it.
Yeah.
It's like attract likes.
Like a what?
Like attracts like.
Oh, like attracts like.
Energy attracts similar energy. Joanne said, I feel vibrations. Leah said, inside us.
Yeah.
But so it's just one of those things that, I can drive a car, but I do not know how it works.
Yeah.
I can access this energy, but I do not know how it works. And to be honest with you, I don't need to know right now. I'll say that. Right now, I don't need to know. But, and Donna said, I think we co-create the energy together, especially when doing healing work with someone.
Yeah.
And I come to find out that a lot of the way I was accessing information and doing my tarot readings, I was accessing Akashic record stuff.
Wow.
That's what it was doing. So.
And I think, we're all our own little snowflakes, and spirit kind of knows, okay, this is where she is on the development spiritual, this is where her vibe is. These are his or her experiences in the world. And that's that, this is what's in her file cabinets in her brain as far as knowledge goes. What can we use from this to get the message across? And sometimes for me, sometimes they make it apparent that I watched too many cartoons as a kid. So lots of times they'll give me stuff from George Jetson or the Looney Tunes or whatever. It's like, really? But this is what she knows.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And Kaylee said, I think not knowing almost allows us to use the energy better because we then don't put it in a box to limit it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so not in all cases, but in some, yeah. And awareness does work, yes. Yeah. It was just a curious question. I was chatting with a friend of mine earlier, and I don't know how you are doing with all of the energy that is pulsating in the world these days. Yeah. How are you doing with all of the energy that's pulsating in the world?
I don't watch the news. Well, sometimes I'll watch the PBS NewsHour sometimes. And I just get enough headlines through, a newsletter, New York Times newsletter or something like that. But I've never had cable television. So I'm really glad I haven't. If I listen to news, and I'm a journalism major, so news, it used to be 24/7. Public radio used to be on quite a bit, but I don't I don't want I don't want to get drenched in it.
Yeah.
And I know I keep informed enough to know the general idea of what's going on, but then it's like, what can I do about this? And if it's nothing, then other than sending positive energy, then I do that. But yeah, and I've just decided, I could get really upset about this, but I choose not to. And I'm going to take a walk and look at the trees or whatever, and do what I need to do. And things are going to work out one way or another. And when there's something that I need to do, I've asked Spirit to make sure that I do it, or something that's important for me to know about or to send energy to.
Yeah.
Then I'll do that. But I don't want to get all caught up in it.
Yeah. So my friend, I can share this, but I'm going to share it poorly because I just had the conversation before we went live. Part of it, what's happening is energetically, there's so much going on. And for those of us who are a bit connected, we're sort of in like a hovering period. We're in time out because everyone else around us has to level up and they have to get their awareness. So it's one of those things, and I'm still processing it, but it was like, ooh, wow. It's like, that's interesting because it's like the growing pains. And if you go through the growing pains first, and then suddenly everybody else is going through it, it's like, oh, this is exhausting. I know what you mean. I know what's going on. It's like, wow. So
but everybody handles things differently.
Yeah.
And I know that, and I kind of compare it to grieving. And, I lost my husband, and then my 34-year-old niece, and then my sister-in-law, all within a span of a year and a half or so. And some people, it was just interesting to see how I handled things and how other people handled things. And everybody kind of handles things different. And it's like, okay, I don't know. This isn't helping me to have you coming over here and crying in front of me. That's not helpful to me. Some people it might be. They want to have big people and have big emotions together, but that wasn't me. And anyhow, it's just like I try to give people the grace to know what they need and what works for them, but to also have enough self-knowledge to know that this isn't helpful to me. So God bless you and send you on your way. Yeah.
Wise words. I think it's important to know, is this mine? Is this energy mine? Do I need to carry it around? Because if it's not, then don't pick it up or put it down and then move on. So Beth just said, I feel as though we all can do a little something for bigger causes. The trick for me is not to feel overwhelmed or defeated.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Linda De Gonzalez is here. Hello, Linda.
Hi, Linda.
And, Donna said, I do sense it's a time of limbo while others catch up with the program. And I find the vibes are off, having to do more centering. So,
and I do feel like that's something a lot of times, and now you guys know, Diane, my first family psychic, one time, I think it was like, I don't know if it was like 9/11 or when it was. But it was like that time when terrorism was a big thing. And anyhow, she said, about the different religions and all fighting each other and everything. She said, it's not like one religion is right and one is wrong. She said, it's like the song, all God's children have a voice in the choir. Some sing low, some sing higher, and some just clap their hands. That it's like everybody is at their own stage of growth, and what's good for some isn't right for others. And so wherever we are on this whole matrix, we find the place where the vibe is good for us and do what we can to lift other people up, but also to respect where they are.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So how do you find your center?
Breathing, meditating. I'd listened to music. I don't like guided meditations. I don't like people telling me what to do. Because, and then it's also like fear of like, oh no, I can't visualize in that way very well. Yeah. But I listen to like solfeggio frequencies, and so that really helps me. And then when I meditate to that, it's like the first few bars of that music, and I'm just right there right away.
Oh yeah. I think
love that.
Yeah. Beth asked, Joan, do you ever use crystals to ground or for anything?
I have a bunch of crystals right out in front of me here. Yes. So usually when I'm doing readings and I'm like going like this, it's because I've dropped one where there's stuff like that. That's me futzing around with the crystals. And then here's my little jade rabbit. This was sat on my mother's kitchen table, and Dad took a trip to China once, right before, like the week before Tiananmen Square, or the month before. And anyhow, she picked that up. So she's there. And then I have a tray with, who was it? Who's the psychic who does so much with crystals? I had a crystal reading with her, and she said I needed selenite and this big, what is it? Amethyst and some quartz and some other stuff. So that's sitting there. But yeah, other than that, I'm not somebody who walks around with a lot of crystals wearing stuff or whatever. I do like having selenite and some just quartz crystal, some clear quartz or some rose quartz around.
Yeah. Was that Nancy Jean?
No. It'll come to me probably after this is over, and I'll put it in the notes.
Viviani has come in.
Hi, Viviani.
So, and okay, so do us a favor and tell us about your YouTube channel.
My YouTube channel is Wisdom Seeker Joan, and most of it is live readings. I have a couple of taped readings there that have some exercises and some of these, kind of some of the stories I've told here. And then there's also, I think it's on the videos page, I have a whole playlist of me on a paddleboard.
Oh, fun.
After my husband died, I took I went on the big ashes distribution tour and so I took them down. I drove 2,000 miles down to San Carlos, Mexico in Sonora by myself, had a car accident on the way, didn't speak any Spanish, got there, spent a month there, and because it was like really cheap. This is like after a year or two after COVID or something. And so I could, anyhow, it would be like 2 nights in a hotel in New York or something for a month.
Yeah.
And I had my inflatable paddleboard, and I went out every morning, and it was really nice. And one morning I went out, and the fish rise into a big bubble, and then sometimes at that specific time of year, there's bait fish like the little anchovies and herring.
Huh? Yes.
So there's a bunch of them there, and then the big fish come in to eat the little fish, and the little fish start jumping, and it can feel like when you go by it, the fish feel the vibration. They jump out of the water, and it sounds like a cannon going off.
Wow.
So this has happened a couple of times. I thought I need to catch this on tape. So from then on, I had a little GoPro or a knockoff GoPro camera, and I rigged it up so I could film it on when I did these paddleboard trips every morning. And it never happened.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, there were other things happening, but I thought, well, as long as I have it, I can just download it and throw it up on YouTube. And I put some music behind it, and people said afterwards that they found it really soothing.
Oh, nice.
So if you want to watch something, it's just a paddleboard every day going out to these little islands and back. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, it's like your own version of Eat, Pray, Love.
Yes.
And Crystals, was it
Jen Bushman? That's who it was. Thank you very much.
Yeah, a couple of people
She's fabulous.
Yeah, that's cool. So, my last question for you is, what brings you joy these days?
What brings me joy is, well, first, being with wonderful people like all of you and reading with people. It is such a thrill. It's just, can I tell one more story?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I'm retired. After I retired, I volunteered with this nonprofit, and then they hired me part-time, and I thought, okay, I can do this. But then it got to be too much like work. And in fact, and then I made a mistake. It was like, unfortunately, I took what someone said literally, and rather than what she meant, and she got upset. And I thought, I'm retired. I don't need to be doing this. And I was out on one of my walks and it was really weird because I was out on the walk thinking about this. And it's like, do I really want to be working again? And if this and everything, and I saw a dead bird right in front of me. And I love birds so much, but I saw a dead bird and I thought, this is a sign. And I thought, okay, well, if I don't want to be doing that, what do I want to do? What brings me joy? And after one of the psychic classes I'd taken, and kind of before the internet stuff, I had given a reading to someone. And in fact, she was, at that time I was freelancing, and she was my major client. But I knew she was kind of open to this. So it was really risky. But I asked her, can I just give you a practice reading? And she said yes. And because she was busy, she just wrote down her questions. I did the reading and wrote it back an email to her and sent it back, and was like, oh, at that time I still wanted more work. And I thought, I hope I haven't ruined things. And she sent me an email back, and her responses were in red after her question, my response, and then her feedback. And every one of them was bang on in a way that I had no idea it could have been. And it made a big difference to her. Yes. And I don't know if I've ever been so happy in my life. That was like, I was able to facilitate that, to send her a message, anyhow, it was just great. And I thought, that's what I want. I don't want to be doing this kind of work anymore. I want to get that. I want to have that kind of joy. And so that's why, my readings are by donation, and I've had everything from $0 to $100, but I'd kind of like to get maybe $20 or $25 or something.
Mine are also by donation.
Yeah. And so that's what I'm really after, is that opportunity to read for somebody and make a difference in their life, because I hope it makes a difference for the sitter. But when I get the feedback that said it did, it's a big joy for me. And even when I get the feedback that said you didn't, then that helps too, to kind of help focus things. Yeah.
I always think so I'm going to piggyback on something that you said. I really do. What brings me joy is sharing energy with people, doing readings for them to help them get the information and the support they need so that they can achieve what they want to achieve. Whether it's a good night's sleep, closure, a sense of direction, something of like that. Yeah, being of service is a great goal. And now I've completely forgotten where I was going with that. So
we were talking about what brings joy, and definitely there's nothing like being able to get some hits that way. But also birds, nature. I love paddleboarding and swimming and going for hikes. Well, and now there was every fall my husband and I used to take this hike up in the North Woods of Minnesota. It's really gorgeous up there. And I'm doing those same places on my own now. So it's like a little dangerous off hiking on my own. But one time I was on this trail. It was a new trail, and came up to this big, huge rock face. It was covered in moss and kind of trickling water. And it was just so beautiful. I just put my hands on it and thought, I wonder what that rock could tell me. And I didn't get anything about the rock. What I saw was this, it looked like the basement of someplace, an old building, an old commercial building in the basement. And it was completely, the water was coming up and up and up and up. And it was just being flooded. And I thought, I don't know. There was a lot of rain that year. So I don't know. I had no idea. I told my best friend about it, and she said, oh, well, you were seeing my son's restaurant that got flooded in one of the floods that was that year in New York.
Wow.
And he was my son's best friend. And it's like, oh, that's what I was picking up. So I don't know why a rock on the North Shore of Lake Superior would be telling me that, but that's, I guess, what I needed to know.
I think that's great, and it's it does bring me joy to suddenly I get this flash of insight or information, and I mention it, and it means something. It resonates. It's like, ooh, great! I'm glad I was able to share that information for you.
Yeah.
So, but. And I'm a firm believer that when we're having that energy exchange, and I like it when that feedback, because when you and I do readings with Sun Psychic Jean, it's like we really appreciate when people in chat let us know if we're on the right track, because there's a lot of different people who want to communicate, or a lot of different beings that would like to communicate, and how to track it down to the one that you're asking about is really, it's a skill. It's a skill. So.
And so many times with those, the short readings online, afterwards, there's usually one or two that stick with me. And I think, what did that really mean? And then the fullness of the answer comes later. And it's sort of like, oh, I could have had a V8. This is what.
Well, and I also think, Joan, sometimes, well, as a reader, oftentimes I'm hearing a message that will support me where I am as I'm delivering something for a client.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
it's amazing.
It is.
But I'm so grateful. Thank you for having me here, and thank you.
Of course.
You do have the best chatters. And I admire you so much for what you do for the community. You've built this incredible community. And I really appreciate to be a little part of it today.
I am so glad that you came on. And what have you got coming up the rest of the week?
Well, funny that you should ask. Tomorrow at, I guess that would be 2 Eastern, 1 Central, noon Mountain, 11 Pacific.
Yes.
I will be hosting Gerald and Sun Psychic Jean for our monthly series, Enlightened Insights. And I just enjoy reading with you two so much. So please come and ask questions then.
Yes.
And what else is going on? I will be on, later today, I'll be with the Crone Zone, and we're talking about some spiritual topic that I forget right now. You can tell that I'm not the one presenting. And then Thursday, I'll be with Allie of Heart and Soul Connected and Mark Atha.
Spirit Whisperer.
Spirit Whisperer Mark. on Thursday afternoon, 5:30 Eastern. So yeah, that'll be fun.
I want to encourage everyone to remember to subscribe to the channels, give them thumbs up to the video, ring the bell. I'm hearing reports from different people that they're being unsubscribed. So just verify that you're subscribed. And I am doing readings tonight. I'm doing caffeinated and unfiltered readings tonight at 7 Eastern. And those are readings that are blunt, clear, sometimes crafts. But I'm going to be using the Best Chatters Oracle cards for that tonight.
Oh,
we'll see how
fun.
that goes. And so I've got several readers joining me. And then I'm with Joan and Jean tomorrow. And stay up to date by looking at the community tab. So,
Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. It has been incredible having you all here. And we will see you later. We'll see you tomorrow. All right.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.